Welcome back everyone to Let's Play Distant Worlds Honorverse. So off camera I decided to update all the civilian ships because we all need them to be, with the new hyperdrives. I'm just going to show you the designs real fast and I'll try to mention verbally more or less the things that are changing, but just in case you want to mimic these things. I've now added a small amount of armor and shields. For the lower amount of shields, I mentioned this before, but I keep a higher ratio of armor to shields. Usually it goes as high as like 2-to-1 to armor per 1 shield. The shields add about 100 defense, and the armor only adds 10 per on the lowest level. So when you do 2-to-1, it still ends up being... do I mean 2-to-1? I mean 2-to-1 in terms of shields to armor total strength. Sorry, that was confusing. So the worst case scenario, or I should say the most extreme high armor case, will be like 100 shields to 50 armor. And as I was mentioning before, as you go way higher in the shields, you start to drop off the ratio, because basically you only need a kind of a fixed amount of armor when you're facing very specific foes, the ones that are avoiding the shields. So if you go up to, like, let's say 1,000 shields, maybe I wouldn't have 300 armor, maybe I'd only have 200, or maybe even only 150. And when you get into stations, which I forgot to upgrade, but the stations, you'll get like up to, I don't know, like 4,000 shields, and those will only have like, maybe 800 armor, so the ratio continues to drop. Okay, so that's, I think I showed this. What did I actually do? Well, we were able to drop down the standard fuel cells quite a bit, because the difference between the Garax hyperdrive and the previous one we had, the warp bubble whatever generator, let's just showcase the difference real fast. So right now we're dealing with energy usage of 78, and that energy usage of 78 gives us a speed of 12,500. So I already showcased this, but previously we had a slower drive initialization, which meant it's harder to run away, and lower speed and much higher energy usage. And out of all these things, actually energy usage was really hurting our ships quite a bit. With the newer Garax hyperdrives, I'm actually able to get away with only 2 space reactors for ships that aren't going to be using weapons. Now, 82 is still quite a lot, so it's almost exactly how much you need for the hyperdrive, but the little bit left over when they're not in a hyperdrive can be used to recharge the shield, and, well, for other ships we'll get to use weapons with that. So this is the small freighter, here's the medium freighter. Other stuff I was doing, I think I added a thruster or 2 back on, because the extra space saved, excuse me, if we don't need the basic space reactor, these are each 18, they're very sizable. So taking one of those off allowed us to add on another thruster of one kind or another. We also added on, okay, I already mentioned shields. So notice that this one gets actually the 2-to-1 ratio, the 2 shields to 1 armor, which is the closest the ratio is going to be. That's for my medium freighter. The next one I'll jump up to 2 shields, and then we won't be using as much armor. So these are all very expensive ships, by the way, but they should perform their job very well. And I think they're still more or less in some kind of sweet spot. Although I just designed them, I didn't pull from any template. I only have a template for like the first iteration or first 2 iterations. So still, these are a little bit faster because we're able to remove weight in the form of fuel cells. These can go 8 sectors, which is nice, very nice. And you can see I have another 12 size left over. I chose not to fill that to try to keep the maintenance cost down a little bit, because right now what you can see is it's 676 maintenance for my small, 720 for my medium, and 773 for my large. So the maintenance cost disparity between these is not all that big, despite the fact that this small one carries 10 times less cargo, or 3 times less cargo than the large freighter, 3 times less. But it is faster. That's the reason why it's still pretty high on maintenance cost. Okay, so did I do the large one yet? Probably not. This one is slow just because we don't have the size to allocate for engines. And like I said, this one's special because it's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit slower, so it's going to be a little more difficult for it to run away. So it gets 2 shields and 7 armor. So that's should be more than enough to give it time to flee whatever annoyance happens to start bothering it. For the gas extractors, we'll just go this one a little bit quicker. Same idea, take off reactor, add I guess I went with 1 and 4 for armored shields. Probably added a thruster or 2. They're all pretty fast ships now. And the ore miner, more or less the same story. 4 and 1. And you can pause if you need to see that in greater detail. And last, I wanted to make this one the Mark III, so everyone's the Mark III. So I did a useless update, so don't compare these two. You'd compare this one with this one. So this one, 1100 416, is what you would compare with this. This Mark II, I just made up any old design as a Mark II, and then I actually updated that seriously into the Mark III so that everyone's on the Mark III, which will just make it a little bit easier. And then this one gets massive protection, really massive protection. Because I want this one to be very fast. It's going to be carrying population, and population is valuable. Population is essentially money, but not just any money, it's state money. So I want to be very protective of this. In fact, I see that we have 9 left over. That's a bit of an oversight. I mean, I don't think we need more shields or armor. This thing can get away from anything it really needs to. I might, okay, so fuel's okay. What if we add, I think we have just enough to add 1 more armor, 1 more engine, and 1 more directional thruster. I did that in the reverse order, but you get the point. So they make it a little bit faster, turn a little faster, and the range hasn't been impacted all that much. I don't think at all. And hey, that 1 last armor, you know, just makes it... This one's almost up to 2-to-1 ratio, so this one's very, very well defended. But since passengers are carrying around gold... Oh, I also updated this from 1, because now we're going to... Colonization is going to finish next in the high-tech research. So I wanted this to go up to 4. That's going to give us a capacity of... Well, it's only going to be like 5,000 or 5 million, but that's enough. I think you could probably put on comfortably a lot more of these. Size of 10. But it would make everything slower, and I want to make sure they're protected. But at the same time, this does increase the rate. You know what? Maybe it is better now that I think about it. Let's drop off their fuel a little bit, because these ships only need to ferry back and forth between my colonies or resorts, and those will all be tucked a lot closer to the center of my system than the ore miners, the gas miners, the other freighters. Those will have to go to any mining station, but these guys are only going to be going to like the very central parts of my system, so we don't need as much fuel. And maybe I'll take off, let's see, how much space do we need? 4 more. So let's take off, whoops, damn it, not 2 more fuel cells, although I think that would be okay. Like even 3 sectors is probably sufficient, but I think we could probably get away with dropping the armor down a little bit, and then probably this 1 directional thruster. There, that's. I think this is good, because 15 degrees turning is pretty good. And now we still have 110 armor. Now we can add 1 more passenger compartment, which brings us up to exactly 6 million people that can board at a single time. Okay, good. Nothing else I want to change here, so we'll save that. Now, I want to also talk about my ship naming design. I know that I kind of butchered this in the last episode, so let me see if I can do this. Okay, good. You're seeing weird stuff right now, but there it is, my notepad. So this is the naming schema that I've come up with. The frigates are going to start off with the Flower class, so I'm going to rename the one that last time we called the Flanker. I'm going to call it the Flower class. Then I also have the River class and the Kingfisher class. These are all names from historical early 1900s to mid 1900s Royal Navy ship types. So this is the famous Flower Corvette, which especially people who played Silent Hunter, any of the submarine series, know very well. We also have the River class, which is the next evolution from the Flower class, I believe. No, actually the River class was directly a frigate. I don't remember. And then the Kingfisher class as well, which is funny because it's also a name that the Americans use, I think. Then you have the Tribal class for the destroyers, another famous World War II destroyer. The Hun class, I'm not sure if I'm going to use all of these because I have 5 destroyers here because I'm not sure which ones I want to use. I don't really like the name Weapon class, for example, even though it was the successor to the Battle class. So I think the ones I'll probably keep from this are Tribal. And see, the weird thing is the Hunt was technically later in development from the Tribal, but it was designed to be a destroyer escort, so it played a much lighter role. If you, for example, wanted to like simulate a fight between a Tribal and a Hunt, I think the Tribal would win every time. It just has much better weaponry. So we might do something like tribal class to start. I think that's very appropriate. Then go hunt class, or I don't know. We might just skip right to daring. I don't think we need more than 2 designs per military type. Because I don't think... What I'll mainly be doing is upgrading. I won't be switching to an entirely new design very often. I'd like to have only 1 class of military ship per type before sub-role or whatever it is. We have frigates, destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and dreadnoughts, and then also carriers I have here. Anyways, we have for the light cruisers the Town, and then to the Dido. The heavy cruisers will be County and New York and the York class. Again, we only have a designation called cruiser. So I might take the first one to be a light cruiser because it'll obviously have much less size since we won't be as developed in the research screen on ship construction. So we won't be able to get as big of ships at first. So I think that maybe I'll do a Town class and then we'll switch up to maybe a York class or a County class. I guess Town to County makes sense from, it's the same theme for the cruisers. So probably Town to County is what I'll do. For the battle cruisers, I chose these 3. The Admiral class is well known for the unfortunate hood. But this is a World War I famous class, the Invincible. The Renown I think is well known. Renown and the Revenge. I think it's the Revenge, or is the Revenge? Nope, the Revenge was a destroyer. What was the Renown? It was another R. Respite. Can't remember. Okay, then, so the Admiral class will probably be the finisher of this series, the final battlecruiser. So the first one will either be the Invincible or the Renown. For the Dreadnoughts, I picked these 3. I couldn't help but put the Nelson on here because of my fun exposure to that during my Atlantic Fleet playthrough. But we'll probably do the Revenge class first, and we'll finish up with the Vanguard. Just in case you aren't familiar, the Vanguard class wasn't really a class. I mean, it is just because it's its own ship type, but it was only the HMS Vanguard. It is the last battleship that was ever released, that was ever built. It was, put to sea, I guess. I don't know if one was started building later, but I just love that. It's also the fastest and purely the best of the British battleships before the battleship era really came to an end and carriers took over. Now, speaking of carriers, we're going to do with the Glorious, into the Illustrious, and into the Colossus. Now again, if we only take 2 of these, probably Glorious to Colossus, but if you have any opinion about how we should do these kind of things, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll just be picking them however I feel. So that's going to be our naming scheme, which means we got to go back to our ship design, and we have to change our state ship. So Scout, Constructor is fine, but the Flanker we're just going to edit, and we can do this because we haven't built one yet. And this is going to be the Flower class. And I think this works out really well calling them classes like that, because when you look at a ship, down here it'll say Design, CS, Constructor, Mark II. Ours will be, the military ships will be Constructor class, Mark I, Mark II, etc. Yeah, and that's normally how I'm going to do those upgrades, is we'll be upgrading just to Mark II versions and not doing a whole new class, which is, I mean, you can't retrofit naval ships from like the World War, you can't right now, you can't really, it doesn't really work. You can upgrade little minor things, but in this game you can completely redesign a ship and tell it, okay, go become that, and any components which overlap, you keep. But it doesn't work that way in real life, so. Okay, next I want to talk about some changes to research. So right now I only have the long lasers queued, and we just want to get that finished so that I can start building some of those. That'll move us past the Maxos, although Maxos aren't bad by themselves. And what did I want to do here? Armor, which we're doing next, or actually we're doing right now. I can't remember, maybe I don't have any plans for this. Maybe, let's think about this. Let me just rest on this one. I know we have a lot of things to do here. So did I take it away? No, I kept it in there. We have this stuff going on, and I want to add enhanced construction next because ship size is going to become very quickly. You can kind of think of this as your arms race. A lot of the arms race is going to deal with weapons, but the other thing is just how many things can you put on a ship. So in order to have bigger ships, which generally are better, we're going to need to start increasing our construction. It's going to be at the cost of so many great things that you should be picking up in this energy tech field. In the high tech, we're going to start getting our countermeasures. I think that that's really important because these are really, really effective. You can see the first tier, 40%, is equal to the final tier of the normal countermeasures. And that is one of the Kingdom of Manticore's specialties in the Arniverse series. So, like I said, I really find that appropriate that happens to be the Kiadians' specialty, special tech. Once we get colonization, this will be later, but we're going to jump into continental to desert. It doesn't make sense to pick up continental next if that's all we were going for, because we can already colonize continental planets. Once we have this, you're able to colonize your home world type, which for us is continental. However, I want to get this one because the next tier, we can see here, continental colony growth rate doubled, and that's very important. So I'd rather have that because my first 2 colonies are going to be continental, and I'd rather have the max growth rate for those instead of getting more planets which just aren't going to develop as quickly. But before we do that, I think the next one was research. So we have this. Oh, I wanted target tracking because the lower tiers just take so little time to research that we'll do something like this and then grab that. So right now we have 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 all the way over here is finally when we will get weapons research up by 50%. Okay, so now that I've talked about all that, yeah, we're supposed to upgrade we have to upgrade the scouts as well. So let me go back to showing only non-obsolete. And our constructors. These guys both have to be updated. We'll do the auto update. Okay, let's see. Well, we don't need 17.5 sectors, so this is obvious. It is still good to keep a lot of fuel on these guys, because when they explore, they expend a lot of fuel. Can take one of these off. Probably a Haven Life off. I didn't check that even with the other ships, because I was adding a lot of stuff on, so I assume it didn't. We couldn't get away with dropping anything. Oh yeah, I'm going to add a bare minimum of 3-to-1 for my armor and shields, just to try to... Shields is just so important, because you'll take a few hits and it'll recharge by the time you escape. So the range seems insane considering, let's just save this really fast. Take a look at our galaxy is only 8 grids by 8 grids. So anything more than, 4 square root of 2 is 6. Anything more than 8 is just absurd, because 6 is already enough to go from the very middle, which we almost are at, to the edge. I'm assuming that this is about 6. I mean, I guess I could do it, right? Yeah, it's 1.5 times 4, more or less. Okay, so that should be enough then. So 11 is probably more than we need, but I do want them to be able to explore for a while. So now let's just leave that on there. They've already been built anyway, right? So doesn't matter if we take them off. Is there anything I really need to change? I don't think so. These are bare bone ships that if they get destroyed, it's not supposed to be a big deal. We're paying the maintenance for them, so let's keep them cheap. Very good. So we are our flower class, our scout, and last, whoops, not edit, but auto upgrade. And what do we need to do to this one? Excuse me. Well, that range is probably a little bit more than we need. These guys are a little more expensive, so I probably will increase their armor and their shields quite a bit. Let's go up to... Oh, well, we can always just throw on another storage bay. That's fine. Oi. Goodness gracious. Well, we can drop their fuel. Let's see, that should help. Okay. 10 sectors is more than enough. Although these guys are... They obviously have to be the longest ranged besides our scouts, because they need to go and build the new stations as far away from our land as, I mean, they're going to be going to the frontier basically to build new stations. So we do need them to have quite a bit of range, and I think that is plenty. We can take off a space reactor, which I absolutely forgot to do on this one. No, did not. Very good. So just make sure that is done. Oh, actually, this uses so much fuel. I think we might actually need the extra reactor here. 10,900 versus... So basically it's like 11,000 versus 12,500. I think it's worth it to actually add the extra space reactor on this one. And what else? Well, let's try to get the turn rate up again a little bit. Let's see, can we get both thrusters on? That would be really nice. No. Can we get the directional? No. Can we get one more thing of armor? No. So we're at 422, we're at some kind of min-max plateau here. In which case, I guess we'll leave it exactly how it is. It's really not that bad. A bit slow on turning, but it won't spend most of its time turning. It'll spend, hopefully, most of its time building. Unless we got rid of one more fuel cell. And then we could get... Nah, I'm okay. I mean, then it would be a little faster. It would be easier for it to escape. Okay, yeah, probably that is a good idea. Okay, very good. Save that. And now we just need to retrofit all the things. So whenever a ship is just doing nothing, we're going to send it back to retrofit. And we should do this ASAP as well, because the new design is just so much superior that, well, yeah, we should be doing it very quickly. But we have enough money right now to start building our first fleet as well. So let me check over that Flower class design one more time, make sure she looks fine. 68, 128. Do we need all three of these? That's a good question. See, already we've discovered an inefficiency. 82 is plenty enough for 6 and 1. Yeah, so we can just take off one basic space reactor. Some people put an extra reactor on just to make the ship have a little bit more redundancy built in. And I would do that only for the later ships, not for these beginning ones. We'll fly a little bit more by the seat of our pants. I don't like the range. I think let's spend a little bit more on range. And I don't like the speed either. We're maxed out now, and I think that this is fine. It's a bit slow in my opinion. I prefer to get up to 30 with cruise and like 35 with sprint, but this is at least something. Can we get away with one less hab? No. Okay, so there it is, the real Flower class as we are going to build her. And the next step is just to build her. So, our first military ships. I want to get 5 of them. And what we're going to do is put them into a fleet when they're all done. We'll create a new fleet. Grab the ship first. So we want to create a new fleet with this guy. And we want all these guys to join First Fleet. I like to have 5 in a fleet. I consider that my fire team. And then we'll have 3 different fleets work together of different types. So it'll be like 1 frigate, 1 destroyer, 1 cruiser. That'll be my squad. So it's kind of how I arrange things in my head. So good, now we don't have to control each individual ship. All we need to do is go over here to fleets, and there's First Fleet with all 5 of them. Now, they have to build first, but then we can just control all 5 at the same time. We'll probably get a few of these fleets, but to start, let's just work on that first one. Okay, so a lot of stuff that's happening not with the camera moving, while we were paused. So let's try to speed up time now to make up for a little bit of that. And yeah, that's right, we have to be making sure that whenever anybody finishes, Man, we're just getting so lucky with the pirates, huh? We've encountered 4 already. We didn't get very lucky with the last discovery. At the same time, for 30,000 we discovered where the Havenites were. I'm going to do this just in case because it is like the most important thing you can do. Okay, let's see. It said G1. Ah, this is very good. So it's a independent system. There's an independent here who is Securin. Well, we're not Securin, but they also have a hidden pirate base. And they have this Hidden Halls Ruins. Okay, well, we can't get anybody over there until some of our exploration ships get retrofit. It might even be a good time for us to build some more of our scout ships, our new scout ships. Oh, I have to sneeze. Sorry about that. So the Scout Mark III, yeah, this one's will be the workhorse of our fleet. So let's get maybe 5 more of those, because we can really start going everywhere. Okay. Alright, so the refuel guys, we're going to change those guys to be retrofit. If you're exploring, I'll let you finish exploring. This guy's moving to Planet Manticore, so this one's moving to refuel. Let's change his mind. There it is. Somebody else completed their mission. Ah, okay, well, I know you made that huge trip out there, but we have news from the homeland. A new ship awaits you. One with far better hyperdrive technology. This guy's going to run out of fuel, very clearly. But that's okay. What that happens is their speed just drops to 1/3. So he's currently at 1924. Whoops, somebody completed their mission. Let's have this guy go retrofit at the nearest shipyard, which is our planet. And do we have... We still have 2 planets which need to be constructed on eventually. Good. Oh, look at this. So the naming class, the naming system, it looks like it's going to choose just 001. Huh. Interesting. I didn't remember that it did that. How did I not remember that? That's okay. I mean, this is a perfectly appropriate way. It'll be very easy to keep track of what ship is what. It kind of looks nice. So our fleet is finished. Well, we can't go actively after the pirates, but we'll just keep this fleet tasked with moving to Planet Manticore. Just hover around here, basically. Don't do anything. We'll give you new orders in a second. Good God, we got 5 pirates. Okay. Oh, you've been completed. And now let's look at this range. You can't see it, you say? Well, neither can I. It's way out there, though. That's what we know. I mean, it's not that far. God. 12. Well, I guess this is 4. So we can go 4, probably to like here. Really far is the point. So this is exactly the kind of ship we want to go exploring these kind of things. Since it's moving, we'll just kind of guess that it'll be over here. So we'll move this one over there, and he'll let me know when he's finished, I hope. Okay. So happy to have our fleet ready. Our little frigates. Okay, all the other exploration ships appear to have completed all at the same time. Well, good. Let's get them going. Where do we want to go next? I mean, I'm still going to try to filter things outward. Now, at this point, we don't need to start looking at every single system. So what I'm going to start doing is giving this order. Explore all systems in C3. This person's in charge of C3. This person's in charge of this next system. And it's a lot easier to, it's a lot less micromanagement intensive. So everyone gets their own system. You can see why we need so many, because we still have, you know, an 8x8 grid, 64. We probably only covered like, what, 2 so far? So plenty of stuff to explore. In fact, we probably should send a ship over here with a construction ship so we can steal. I'm pretty sure they aren't going to repair the ship in their home system, the Havenites. So we can actually take control of that and then recycle it for technology. No mission? So are you, which one of these guys was the one who wasn't really exploring his system? It was you, I think. How do I know you're actually, well, it doesn't matter, just go retrofit. Yeah, you're a Mark II, so why don't you retrofit as well? Everyone's got a system now, which is good. Everyone else is busy building. Okay. I can't wait. Oh, that's another thing. We want to try to speed boost colonization. Wow, so we're really far off the mark. Is it going to help at all for us to speed boost this? No, I don't think so. The difference between these two is pretty minor, actually. Like, the fuel efficiency is the thing I was kind of gearing up for, but I don't think we really need it. So I probably won't retrofit ships immediately once we get that. I prefer to do things that way, kind of do retrofits in big chains. What, by the way, is the nearest unexplored system? Oh. Well, don't go to that one, because that one is already occupied. Why don't you just get all these? Well, whatever. He'll learn. A new fleet admiral, Hugo Martin. Oh, by the way, off camera, I am going to edit our characters. And if you remember, we first started with a leader who was not very good, but he has actually developed all these things into the positive just because they gain experience over time. So now population growth, happiness, diplomacy, colony income is all positive, whereas at one point I think it was all negative. So that's good. Tourism income is negative, which is the only bad thing. No thanks. Well, I guess this is as good a place as any to call this video to a close. And I think off camera I'll probably do the station retrofits because they all need shields and stuff like that. We'll probably start putting weapons on as well. Because we're starting to get into that phase where, you know, once you have enough money like we do, it's better to be risk averse and start defending, especially our home planet. You know, if we lose that, we're just dead. We're just dead. So, okay, let's get you to retrofit. And I'll probably look at these planets that they just finished exploring off camera as well. And that I can take my time when I do it that way. So, if you have any comments about the ship class naming system I'm using, go ahead and let me know. If you have any preference on one class over another, sure, I'll choose whatever. But otherwise, that's the plan I have, because I think it lives in the spirit of the Honorverse, especially as the Kingdom of Manticore, as their own ships were the ones who would follow the Royal Navy's naming scheme. So we'll just continue the trend. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.